We'll bring head coach Mike Neighbors on just a moment. The news that SmackDown had alerted us to just before the last commercial break, Akol Mawane, and I still don't know if I ever said his name correctly, Akol Mawane, former forward for Navarro College who had committed to play for Arkansas, has now received his release from the Razorbacks and has reopened his recruitment. So we heard that there could be other transfers, and there's one. So Cole Mawane no longer will be an Arkansas Razorback.
I believe I saw it from Hutch that now the men's team has 2 roster spot openings, so maybe we'll see some more commitments come in with Muss doing some work. And there's been some rumor swirling of different meetings with other players that'll be happening with some official visits. So definitely keeping in tune in here. We'll keep you updated with everything we know.
I'll keep the conversation here on basketball and a bunch of other things too. Mike Neighbors, Arkansas head basketball coach for the women's program, joining us here on Halftime. Nabes, it's been a while. I know you're on the road for somewhere in Texas, correct? What do you listen? What does Mike Neighbors listen to while he is doing the driving on a road trip?
I'm listening to y'all's show, of course, until I run out of the area. We're still in Arkansas, so headed down to Coach Blair's golf tournament in College Station. So we've still got we're going to have you guys through the end of the 2 o'clock hour, I think, at the very least. After that, we'll probably go with a little Wade Bowen or some Texas country music, get us ready for a trip down to Texas.
Very nice, very nice. So then we've been talking about throughout this day. Would this day for you be more on the Star Wars side of things or more on the National Concert Day side of things?
Well, the young me would definitely be Star Wars. I was big time into it, but the first 20 years of my life, I would have said Star Wars me, but the last 32, definitely National Concert Day, trying to put those in order of the best ones I've been to and memories of concerts. Definitely fall on that side of it for later in life.
Man, I got to say, and I wonder if this has affected you. I doubt it has, because I think you've been to a lot more shows than I have because of the time I spent doing baseball games. Like, there were no concerts I could go to in the summer the summer festivals, and we had night games all the time. You never were able to go see a concert. Could you estimate? I thought maybe I've seen 30 to 40. That's what I'm guessing. Can you estimate how many concerts you think you might have attended?
500 at least. I love live music. I would say 500 was the over-under line, and I'd bet heavy on the over once I really started putting it down. And, growing up in Greenwood, going to K. Rogers Park during the Arkansas State Fair, you go and see free concerts every night of the week, and that was a big thing to do. So started out young. I'd 500 would be the over-under, but I'd bet the over pretty hard there, Phil.
So when you're talking about like a concert, there's so many different forms of a concert. There could be something that's intimate, just a few dozen people and acoustic, and then there's the stadium tours in which you're there with tens of thousands of people and hair metal bands and all that kind of stuff. Which sort of concert do you lean towards there?
I like the small, intimate venue. There's no question. If you were going to make me rank them, I saw Prince in a very, very small venue in Seattle. I was at Doc Murdoch's back in college the night that Garth showed up, and I promise you there weren't more than 50 of us there. But now you hear the story told there were about 10,000 people somehow crammed into that one little building. People say they saw it, but those intimate, small gatherings, conversations. I got to see Brad Paisley play one time on a foreign trip when we were in Denmark. Those types of things, to me, I love a big stadium tour. But I tend to gravitate toward the smaller venues.
Coach, let me jump in real quick, Phil. But you mentioned Prince. What is Prince? I've always been enamored with Prince just for how he could command a stage. We saw what he did with the Super Bowl. What is Prince like in person? Like, what was that Prince environment like when you saw him in concert?
You felt like he was talking to you and playing to you and making everybody in there felt like they had a moment with Prince. I know when I felt like he was talking directly to me, and everybody walked out of there. He had this magnetism about him. And he's about 5'2". I mean, Phil's going to post him up on the block all day long if we get them in a 2-on-2 game, although he was a good basketball player. But he had this command and his musicianship. He's very underrated as a musician. People that just, maybe have seen some videos or saw Purple Rain or whatever, they don't realize how innovative he was on not only guitar but keyboards. He would play all the instruments on a number of his songs. So just he had that it thing, whatever that it is, he had it.
If you could go back in time and turn yourself into a musician, a professional musician, if you could be at the level, not quite at the level of Prince, because nobody has really ever been at that level before. You've had a really successful coaching career, Nabes, and it's still on the upswing. Would you have rather been a rock star?
Definitely, no question about it. Trade it in a heartbeat. There's and I get to play when Mary Heather comes in, Scott Verity, and those guys let me sit in with them when she's in town. There's just something about being up there on that stage that I don't think it would get old. I mean, I think you could do it night in and night out. I hear of the struggles of the road but just the places it takes you, the people that you meet. I would probably definitely trade it in. Knowing what I know, I make that jump over to that side pretty fast because when you read these books, these autobiographies, they're not always. I know there's a lot more that goes on, than what they write about, but some of the experiences they have just seem like you live quite a life in a few number of years.
Yeah. Well, I want to get in a little bit with the basketball team now, and it's been it's been like 5-6 weeks since the loss to Wright State, and there's been a lot of things that have happened since then. I mean, at the top of the list is watching Chelsea and Destiny go in the WNBA draft, and I saw where on Twitter Destiny did she sign with a Turkish team?
She did, yeah. She's got her overseas stuff already set up, and if you got to know Destiny very quickly, you knew she's very advanced for her age. She's very mature, very independent, so you knew she was going to have that stuff locked down quicker than most, and she has. She's been doing really well. They had an exhibition game a couple of nights ago. I got two perspectives. You get her perspective, and then you get the perspective from Plum as well, who's on that same team. So she said Destiny's doing really, really well and has a really good opportunity to make that team, which is so hard to make a WNBA roster because of the limited roster spots and limited number of teams. But I think she's got a great opportunity, and Chelsea does as well down in Dallas.
Mike, we got into this around the time of the WNBA draft. Like, I can't think of another professional league that's got to be tougher to be able to make a team and then stick than the WNBA. I'm talking NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, MLS. I can't imagine a tougher league to stick in than the WNBA.
No. Just, there's probably going to be 137 jobs between the 12 teams this year. Not all of them will even carry a full roster of 12. But then you magnify that. This is their 25th year of play in the league. And you've got some people that have been playing for 22, 23 years.
Wow.
So you've got a number of people every year. Less than half of the draftees make a team, way less than half. So it's a real challenge for them to play in that league. Most of them will go play overseas and have an opportunity to play professionally for a number of years. You can make that work depending on your ability to live abroad and do that. But it's a good opportunity. I saw a neat deal the other day, Phil. They did a comparison to where the NBA was at in its first 25 years, and the WNBA is actually ahead of it in attendance, in marketing, and everything. So, we just got to keep giving it a chance, and these kids are the pioneers of it still, even at 25 years. But it's still growing, and hopefully by the time this next generation of kids get there, it'll be closer to what is available in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's ripe for expansion, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I want to get into maybe what next year's team might look like, and I know you've added Jersey, Ilana will be healthy, Sasha Goforth, Amber stays, Emery Ellis, Ashlyn Sage are coming back. Sounds like a longer, taller team, and you guys are going to employ some different tactics.
Yeah. I told Mario he's going to have to find that 6 button on his roster over there because we're going to have some 6-footers. I think we'd have won the 6-foot and under national championship the last couple of years. I really do, because we kind of stretched Taylor out to a very generous 6'1" mini nights. But no, we're gonna have some added length. We're gonna have added depth. I think you're going to see a Marquisha Davis. We started to see her come into her own at times this year. Now in a more confident role the next several. But yeah, you might see us press some next year, Phil. I don't want you to be too shocked when you're calling the game, but there's a good chance we'll go 8, 9, 10 deep, something that I've not done as a head coach, but I do think we've got the roster to be able to do it coming up starting next year.
Well, and I read Paul Boyd's article about, it came out about a month ago, and what stood out, I mean, there was a lot that stood out, but I read the term Princeton-style offense, and I'm thinking, wow, that doesn't seem to really mesh with what I'm used to watching for Mike's teams. So how does the Princeton-style offense work with an up-tempo club? And I know they'll still be up-tempo.
He forgot to mention that we said Princeton on steroids. He left that little part of it out. We're still going to play incredibly fast, but I think with our roster and the makeup of who we're going to have, and having Coach Todd on the staff, who ran it as a number of years when he was a head coach at Arkansas Tech, and Christian Brothers when he was coaching, I think our personnel fits that. And I think we've always done that as a coaching staff, is adapt to the team that you have. And the team that we're going to have is going to be able to run that some in the half court. We're still going to play incredibly fast in transition. There's not one thing that's going to change about how we try to play and how quickly we try to attack. But the change will come in when people can guard us. We've proven that we've got a way to beat UConn, a way to beat Baylor, but we didn't have a way to beat Wright State. We didn't have a way to beat Ole Miss late in the year. So you've got to, when you get to the point we're at now, you got to be able to beat a variety of teams, and that's where I think our next growth area comes. And if we just keep trying to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, somebody did find that as insanity one time. I think Einstein gets credit for it, although I don't really think it was him that said it. So we're going to try some new things. I think we've got a unique roster. We've got some unique kids. There's not very many 6'5" kids walking around that have a guard listed out beside their name, and some of the other players that you mentioned coming back. I think we've got a really unique situation and a unique team, so we're going to try to play in a unique way.
Coach Mike Neighbors joining us here on Halftime. Coach, I want to ask you, just look back for a second, then we'll end this thing up. We'll wrap this thing up here pretty quick.
Okay.
Looking back here just recently with Chelsea Dungy and Destiny Slocum both going in this most recent WNBA draft, and Chelsea Dungy going to the Dallas Wings, Las Vegas Aces getting Destiny Slocum. What does this do for the Razorback women's program moving forward? Getting two girls in the WNBA draft to get going, and two girls that were drafted relatively high in the top 15.
Well, it allows people to answer the phone when you call, and some of them calling us. We're getting some cold calls from people that recognize that you can come here and play and win at a high level in our league, and it can prepare you and get ready. And, we had Ari McDonald, too, in that draft, a kid that we had signed at Washington and coached her freshman year before I left and came here. Coach Todd and I coached her as well. So we had three kids that people can kind of identify us with and know that, you've got the opportunity to continue to play at the next level if you come and play in our system and continue to grow your game. So it gives you validation. These younger recruits see that. I talked to somebody the other day that knew Chelsea Dungy that didn't know Kelsey Plum, which is crazy because Plum was so popular and the number one draft pick. But time goes away and these kids see what's right in front of you. So we've got recent history of two kids being drafted in the WNBA this year.
All right, I want to go back to how we started this conversation with National Concert Day, and you mentioned you'd love the small venue, the intimate venue of that. Yeah. So, not who is the one person you would love to see in concert in that type of a venue, that type of atmosphere that you haven't seen yet?
I would love to see. I would have loved to have seen Michael Jackson in an intimate setting, just because of his ability to perform. I've seen everybody lately that I really want to see, so I don't have anybody. I have to go back to somebody that I'll never have an opportunity to see in that setting. But I would have loved to have seen if Michael Jackson had that same approach that Prince did. But I'll tell you what, I'd like to see Pearl Jam. I'd like to see Pearl Jam. I really fell in love with those guys when I was in Seattle and saw them in couple different places. But I'd like to hear some stories behind some of the stories the songs they wrote, and the things they'd experienced. So I go Pearl Jam to answer your question.
I got one for you here. I got one for you here, Naves, because your program is responsible for taking me to see Hamilton in San Francisco.
That's true.
And I will never forget that, and I will always be very phenomenal. We're very grateful for that. But you're going to have to let me take you to a Weird Al Yankovic concert someday.
That's a good – Phil, I will go with you I know you have a passion. And I love Weird Al. I I knew him back in I love Rocky Roads and My Bologna days before he really got popular. So yeah, I'd go with you. I'll be your fan buddy for that trip.
That'd be something you and Matty T and Coach Neighbors could do.
All right. Well, I'm going to start planning it out. I'm going to start planning it out. Summer 2022. We'll make our plans already. Yeah. All right.
I love it.
Mike, appreciate you joining us. Safe drive on the trip. Say hi to Coach Blair and hope you hit him straight and narrow, man.
No chance of that happening.
Thanks, Coach.
See y'all.
Mike Neighbors joining us from the road. Oh, yeah. I want to take him. My favorite concerts have been seeing Weird Al Yankovic and George Carlin. 7 Carlin concerts, 3 Yankovic concerts. And the next time I see George Carlin is going to be in that concert venue in the sky, if there even is such a thing. Don't forget about Riley Farm Dental. If you're looking for a very comfortable, friendly, family-style place for all your dental procedures, including braces, implants, cosmetics, it's Dr. Bo Sparkman and Dr. Brogan, voted top 3 best of the best every year since 2017. The second you walk in to Riley Farm Dental at 5901 Riley Park Drive, Suite A, you'll be part of the Riley Farm Dental family. Go to RileyFarmDental.com, 226-3500.